properly. In that respect, I'd like to invite Professor Dave, who is a global expert in the field of cybersecurity, to present his views on what does he see going ahead. How can organizations prepare better? Thank you, Dave.
Well, thank you very much, Ashish. Thanks for the invite. I'm delighted to be here. Hope everyone can hear me. I will be sharing my screen so I can go through a couple of slide decks that will allow me to organize my thoughts. So if you would bear with me. I hope the deck is visible. So yes, this is a wonderful opportunity, and I would like to take this opportunity to, I'm going to skip my introductions. By the way, I will make the slides available to anyone who is interested. I've been working in the area of cybersecurity for a while, and it's been a wonderful journey. It's taken me to different countries, share my perspectives, learn from others, and this is yet another fabulous opportunity. Even these publications should be easily available if someone were to click on the links, and they are pretty current and relevant. Talking about the pandemic and the lessons that the pandemic has for all of us, the four things that come to mind is how vulnerable we are as individuals, as groups, as organizations, and as a nation. The more digitized we get, the more connected we become, and for everything that is good that happens, you pay a price for it. And in this particular case, there is a price to be paid for extreme digitization. On top of that, now with the push towards remote work, remote collaboration, this problem is going to magnify. And we have to get as good as we can to manage technology, to secure ourselves, to secure our data. Talking about preparedness, my research finds the level of preparedness is not where it should be. And the pandemic once again proved to us how the nations were not quite ready. They caught, the phenomenon caught pretty much everybody napping. The phenomenon also highlighted that a reactive approach doesn't cut it. A muddled, a lack of plan approach doesn't cut it. We have to be in a much better state of readiness if we have to effectively survive and thrive in the new digital and remote working reality. As you all know, as I said earlier, with digitization comes some challenges in the form of expanding attack surfaces, greater use of devices such as the IoTs and the wearables, and who knows what's coming next. The human vulnerability factor has always been there. Research finds that the 99% of the attacks are focused on exploiting these vulnerabilities. Such vulnerability gets further magnified as we start working remotely. As we provide individuals with more technology access, it makes it even more challenging to ensure that everybody is doing their part to secure data. I want to make another point here. When I go and deliver talks on cybersecurity, often participants want to know about the role of technology. And they recognize that I come from the field of technology, so they expect me to emphasize that it is really all about technology that's going to solve these kinds of problems. And my response to that is, that's not quite true. We have to take a very holistic approach, an approach where we are managing people effectively, we are managing processes effectively, and of course, we are making the best possible use of sophisticated technology. So I wanted to also emphasize that as we prepare to manage in this post-pandemic as well as the current pandemic era, as we prepare to effectively handle a more digitized work environment, we must look at these three key elements: the people element, the process element, and the technology element, and find the right fit. I'm sure the people who make a living attacking sites are thrilled about this greater opportunity, because that now they have more attack surfaces, and they are definitely very savvy, and they are increasingly using AI and other capabilities to make their attacks even more innovative. And that's another challenge that organizations are having to contend with. Just like we have the pandemic, we've had the cyber attack epidemic happening for a while now. No organization is being spared. No country is being spared. Everyone has to be in a high state of readiness, because everyone is in a perennial state of breach. Striving to mitigate the risks of cyber attack is the cost of doing business today. In fact, in my opinion, cybersecurity preparedness is emerging to be a strategic competency. We are familiar with the consequences of attacks. Organizations lose revenue, they lose opportunities, there's loss of reputation, there is a drop in stock value. But something even more bigger, more catastrophic can happen when infrastructures get attacked. Case in point, the pandemic. See what the pandemic has done to countries. They have brought everything to a screeching halt. The planners probably envisioned it, didn't quite believe it could happen. It happened, and they were caught by surprise. We cannot afford the other shoe to drop now. And what's the other shoe? The other shoe I see is a form of a cyber attack. It's very feasible, or it's very plausible. We can have bank failures. We can have nuclear attacks. We can have contamination of our key resources. The financial market could collapse. So when Warren Buffett made this statement that cyber attacks are a threat on par with nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons, he couldn't have been more correct, and I couldn't agree with him more. Did I ever imagine that the pandemic was going to happen and would further validate this reality? So it is imperative that all of us recognize these challenges ahead of us, and we all have a role to play. I'm so glad that the pandemic experts are hyping these words and telling everybody that you do your part. That's exactly what I have been preaching to the corporate, that cybersecurity is not a problem to be solved by a cybersecurity team. Cybersecurity is not something that you can just outsource and live happily ever after. You have to make a commitment to it. It is part of your organizational core. It is part of your strategic competency, and you must devote resources, plus you must provide its oversight. I don't have the time to go through all the success factors which have emerged from my ongoing research for the last several years, but at a very high level, I have organized these success factors into three categories. And I like to call them commitment, preparedness, and discipline. So it has to be a multi-pronged and a holistic approach. We have to transition out of a reactive to a proactive approach. We have to focus on resiliency, quick recovery. Once again, let's take the pandemic. Which country can make the quickest recovery with minimal damage? Similarly, if an organization or if a nation faces or has to deal with a cyber attack, how quickly can they recover? Do they have those plans in place? Have they tested those plans? Mark my words, I'm using the word tested. Plans are plans. Plans need to be tested. If we don't test, when things happen, we are caught napping, the response is chaotic, and I'm sure I don't need to give you examples of how that is so true out there as we see for ourselves. Moving along, so these are several factors, and once again, I want to emphasize that there are several pieces to this complex puzzle of cybersecurity management, and technology is only one of them. We require committed leadership. Does that ring a familiar tone in the context of the pandemic? We need committed leadership. We need robust governance procedures. We need informed and motivated personnel. These are very important success factors, whether it's the current pandemic or a future cyber-induced pandemic. So finally, to connect with the focus of our discussion today, which is big data analytics. Well, data drives everything. It is very important to ensure that you have good data to make your decisions, to do your analysis. The good news is research finds significant progress in using sophisticated analytics techniques coupled with machine learning capabilities to detect threats, to predict threats, and to prevent attacks. That would be an amazing capability if organizational systems are able to proactively detect and mitigate cyber attack risks. Are we there yet? Not quite, but based on the data that I have been reviewing lately, we are inching and moving in this direction. Our previous speaker did a fabulous job sharing with us a lot of examples of how analytics are being used to help us deal with the current pandemic crisis. Similar capabilities will be leveraged to make us more secure from the standpoint of sensitive and qualitative data. In the interest of time, I will stop here. I appreciate the opportunity. And once again, here's my contact information. I'll be happy to take any questions offline. If you want a copy of the slides or articles, please reach out to me. It will be a pleasure. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Dave. It was fascinating to hear about cybersecurity, and also brilliant the way you connected cybersecurity preparedness with pandemic preparedness. And it is right; those firms who are ready, those firms who are prepared before pandemics, before cybersecurity attacks, will be the ones who will benefit the most when such attacks happen. We do